Hey everyone, welcome back. I wanted to do another episode today, just looking through my old journal entries and some stuff that I have written in the past that I actually came across this past weekend. And I know I did an episode like this a while back where I read through some of my notes and I was trying to dissect them and understand exactly what I meant. But I came across this one specific journal entry. It was from Monday, January 24th, 2022. This is when I really started getting to my peak rock bottom. So this was an interesting journal entry I just wanted to read. I feel like I have started this journey over so many times, but in reality, it's all one big journey. But every time I did it, I always knew my end goal was to help people. So I'm really glad I documented a lot of it. I think I mostly documented the good stuff. Like when I was having a good day, I was trying to write that stuff down and not necessarily the bad stuff. But the times that I did write down the bad stuff, I'm actually really happy I did because I can go back and I can now read it and share with everybody the literal exact feelings about how I felt in the moment of going through because I started recording these videos as things were getting better. So not too much of the negativity, but I wanted to read this entry and just so you can kind of see where my head is at. Okay, so when I found this over the weekend, some of it was obviously grammatically incorrect. I was honestly probably crying writing this. So I'm just going to read it as best as I can. Again, this is Monday, January 24th, 2022. So really, really bad place for me. I ended up going to Hippocrates, the wellness center in West Palm Beach for 5 weeks at the end of this year, and then I moved the following year. So yeah, this was a pretty bad year for me. I do want to preface by saying a few of the other journal entries prior were me saying, today was a really good day. Today I was really happy. I was trying to list my gratitudes. I was still obviously struggling a lot, but it's very interesting to see what was before that because, um, well, you'll see. So, Monday, January 24th, 2022. It has been a really rough few days. I completely went overboard and just totally lost control. Makes it feel like every day I will start new, so enjoy today. But where is the enjoyment when I am in so much pain and so fat? I I wrote this because I would always tell myself, you're going to start this diet on Monday or on Sunday. It was like, you're always going to start it the next day. So enjoy yourself today. And that was the mentality that I had. And that kept repeating as a vicious cycle because I never would start the diet or whatever I was supposed to be doing. Where's the enjoyment when I'm in so much pain and so fat? To the point where Saturday night I woke up at 4 a.m., threw up, and came out the other side at the same time. Yikes. Shouldn't that be rock bottom? Wouldn't you think that would make me stop? I just have something that continues to want to sabotage me, and I need to figure that out. It's so tough, and even though I feel like giving up, I know I cannot. I have no choice but to just keep pushing forward. It's very hard to read that. I am on the verge of wanting to cry, but I'm trying to mask it because I really don't want to. So let me bring in my humor because that's how I cover things up a lot of times. There was always a devil on my shoulder and an angel on my shoulder, and I was always listening, unfortunately, to the devil. But it always just felt like what is this? Like what is causing me to do this? At this point, I didn't really understand emotional blocks and stuff that was preventing me from wanting to help myself. I just knew there was something sabotaging me. It was in my brain, and I knew it was happening internally, and I couldn't figure it out. I always say I'm type A. I control everything in my life down to everything. I'm extremely organized, like I said, very type A. But I could not control my food and my eating, and it just didn't make sense as to why. So it always felt like there was an inner saboteur, something going on that I couldn't figure out. Okay, here's when I bring in Woodley. Woodley is my dog. I look at Woodley and all I want to give to him serious happiness and long walks. I can do it. I have done it before. I'm so much happier when I feel good versus when I'm eating. So forget the food, stop living every single day for what I'm going to eat, and instead look for what I'm going to do and only eat what is necessary. Then really focus on your mind and getting that right, and let's figure out what the emotional block is. Okay, I guess I knew there was an emotional block. Do you have more do you have more control and more power than you have more control and more power than you think. There is absolutely no way you will lose weight if you continue what you're doing. It's just going to make you more unhappy. So start small, but you know you can do it. You've done it before, you will do it again. You have the money, you have the resources, you have the strong mentality, you have the motivation. Just do it. Do it for yourself, do it for Widley, do it for your future. Obviously, it's incredibly hard to read, but it's very raw and exactly how I felt in the moment and so authentic. Like I really was like talking to a person that I did not know, and it was myself. Like I was trying to just convince myself with a positive mind and a positive attitude that you would get past this, and whatever it is that you're going through, like you just have to get through it. Like this is just a matter of like putting your head down and just doing it and grinding it out, and you have the motivation and the mindset. But the truth is, like, that's not what it was. Like there was clearly something else that was blocking me. There was this addiction that was overriding everything else that I wanted to do positively for myself. Over the course of that year, I mean, that was January. Over the course of that year, I went on to gain another 50 pounds, 50. It's a lot of weight. It's a lot. It's funny when I like look at like what I have gained overall and what I need to lose. Like 50 doesn't feel like that much from the large amounts that I need to lose, but like that's a lot of weight. That's how much I have lost now since November. More than that. So it is a it's it just goes to show how much I was struggling. I was at what I thought at that point was rock bottom. Little did I know I'd actually gain 100 pounds more from that point in time. But I was just at my worst and I just didn't know what to do. I was so stuck. I just couldn't get it. I couldn't fathom that somebody like me who has such a strong mindset is going to let something else overtake literally everything in their life. This affected every single aspect of my life because it wasn't just about the weight and it just wasn't about the looks. It was about how I felt and my health overall. It was about, work. It was about, my social life and friends. Like it affected every single part of my life that I've gone through. Okay, I just scrolled up to read a little bit more, but this was from Sunday, January 9th. So a couple weeks before the other thing that I wrote. I just spoke about my day and what I did that day. And then I wrote, I know I need to make a change and it is going to happen. I need to follow the emotional blocking course to help. I start therapy this week and excited to gain some new techniques. Sometimes I think I can do it on my own because no one would ever understand my brain. Looking forward to this therapist on BetterHelp. That therapist on BetterHelp was the actual worst person I've ever spoken to in my life. She should not only get her therapy license revoked, but her human license revoked. She was an awful human being. She did not know how to speak to people. It was actually the craziest thing. I reported her to BetterHelp. She was horrible. So that honestly probably made me go into a spiral and binge eat because when I used to have bad experiences like that, it would make me go back into the bad habits that I already had. I actually don't know what I'm talking about when I said emotional blocking course. I guess at this point I was aware that this was something emotional that was causing these issues, but I really don't even remember taking a course or doing anything. Maybe it's something my mom sent me, but again, you can't do anything unless you like actually choose to do it. So nobody could tell me shit. I couldn't take any recommendations from anybody. I had to be the one to do all this stuff on my own. What stood out the most from this post was sometimes I think I can do it on my own because no one would ever understand my brain. I honestly sometimes still feel that way, that like I just feel very misunderstood and like people just don't get me. I think people have assumptions of like from when I was a kid and then they like continue to like use those assumptions as how I am now. And it's just not true. I've changed so much, but like that's only because I don't always express exactly how I feel. I'm pretty bad at stating my emotions. So that is actually part of this whole thing because for so long I have suppressed my emotions to not like actually feel them. So when I was sad, I pretended I wasn't. When I was happy, I tried to mask that too. Like I've just for so long have suppressed my emotions and that's what's caused a lot of the addiction. That's like a pretty common thing that happens when you're talking to people who get these addictions and it's because they have suppressed emotions from years of whatever they have gone through. So it is interesting, but a lot of times I have felt misunderstood and like I just have a very weird brain and nobody thinks the way I do and nobody gets it. And I never thought anybody would understand. And then when I started working with Mary, my NLP coach, neuro linguistic processing, I always forget. I always mix it up with the computer science one. But basically, she is a form of therapy, I would say, not really a therapist, but like a form of it, and really like utilize like your brain and how you learn and the techniques based off of like your specific brain. So when I first met her, like we didn't do any work for the first 2 sessions, and I was pissed. I was like, what the hell? Like I want to get this over with. Like come on, fix me. But it's because she was taking hours to get to know me, to learn how I think and how I process things, because that's what's most important when you're working with somebody like me, who is trying to overcome something. Not everybody's going to learn the same. I think we learn from like a very like overarching level as like kids and young adults, that everybody learns differently. Some people are more visual learners, some people are more tactile, some people are audio learners, some people are multiple. That's what NLP is. It's learning. Well, maybe not that's what it is, but a good NLP therapist is going to learn exactly how you think so that they know how to talk to your brain specifically. So I thought that was really interesting that I specifically pointed that out, that no one would understand my brain, because that is exactly how I have felt until my current NLP coach, who literally got to know me, and she would be able to explain back to me like, well, you think like this or you learn like this, so we're going to approach the situation this way. That that was, I loved that. That made me feel finally like heard for the first time in years. Okay, last note, because I don't want to read all these journal entries, but I specifically wrote in here, this was from January 7th. So even before that, I was just talking about my day. My sister came over. We watched RuPaul season 14 premiere, but they only showed half the cast. I was very pissed. I ordered Greektown for dinner. A bit of a sabotage night. Frustrated with myself, but I know I will get better. It is just a matter of time. Like even when I was like down in the dumps, I always knew something would happen. Hopefully, I guess maybe this was just like hopeful thinking. But I would try to remain positive even in the midst of like the darkest days for me, because every single night was a sabotage night. I also never knew what to call it, because I don't know when I first started calling it like binge eating. And definitely was not calling it food addiction until more recently, but I would call it like self sabotage. Like I hated myself so much, I would sabotage. And that's interesting that that was pointed out in this journal. Anyways, I really like going through these old notes and reading about it. Obviously, it brings me back to really dark times, but I'm kind of emotionally detached from that now through the NLP work that we have done. I've learned to let go of a lot of the anger that I've had for myself for allowing myself to get this way. I've let go of a lot of the sadness, because it is what it is. I started to really hone in on my emotions and experience them when they come up, instead of just like pushing them down and dealing with them later, like learning to accept it. And if something were to come up and I would have a memory of something that happened in the past and it would make me sad, I would literally just like tune it out, just say, go back down. I really don't want to think about this. But now I actually I feel it and I'm like, why am I sad? Why am I being reminded of this memory? What did I learn from this memory? And that's the best thing you can do. That's the best lesson that I've gotten through the NLP coaching, is everything is happening for a reason. What lesson can I learn from it? Even the worst parts of your life, what positives can you take away from that? And so that's been interesting, just on top of figuring out this binge eating stuff, figuring out this food addiction, figuring out this new life that I'm going to be living, and the new things that I'm learning about myself, like all of this stuff. I'm also learning how to have emotions again. And that sounds so crazy, because yes, I would cry a lot when I was going through like these darkest times of my life, but I wasn't like feeling, like really feeling and understanding why these things were happening. So that's all part of this entire process and this journey, is uncovering a lot of these emotions, feeling these emotions, and seeing how that impacts where I got to at that point in my life. But the best part about seeing these old posts and what I used to be like just helps remind me of how far I've come, even in a very short amount of time. That was in 2022. Things got way worse all the way into 2024. And then finally, when I got a grasp, I started my NLP stuff in July of 2024, and things really hit for me February 2025. So it is currently June 2025. It was not that long ago, but it took time. It took 10 years, 20 years of unhealthy habits that I had to I don't want to say like rewind on, because that's not the point of this therapy. It's not to sit there and harp on the past, but it's to figure out what has caused all these things and address it. And it took a lot of time for finally my brain to register and things to be good. I can't talk, that I'm just overwhelmed. It took a lot of time for this to work and a lot of time to uncover what we needed to uncover. And we're doing the best that we have been. I'm in a very good spot. I'm not perfect. I still have days where I struggle, not with like the food stuff. That's really not a problem for me. It's just like mentally, I'm still on the heavier side. It's, I lost 50 pounds, but I was really, really, really heavy. So still some stuff like that I still struggle with. Certain food stuff, not like the binging by any means, but just like figuring out the best way to get enough protein for myself and staying full, so I'm not hungry all the time. So I'm still working through all this stuff, but what a difference. What a difference. So yeah, I always think these are interesting to find old journal entries. I'll continue to read some of them, but thank you for listening. Really appreciate it. I will see you on the next one. Bye.